you. Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy President. I have supported the cashless debit card as an effective means of reducing the impact of alcohol and drug use since its inception because it works. I took part in the committee inquiry hearing in Kalgoorlie in 2017 and heard from people about the level of dysfunction which drug and alcohol abuse brings to a community, and I have spoken to community representatives since about the positive impact which the card has brought. I have heard about children being sent to school regularly. I've heard about families shopping together and filling their supermarket trolleys with food, a new experience as a result of the card. I've heard that the level of social disruption has fallen. Domestic violence has lessened. The evidence on the ground shows that the cashless debit card makes a difference, improving lives and improving communities. This is borne out by a number of research projects. The baseline report into the Goldfields trial supports these earlier findings. There continues to be decrease in drug and alcohol issues, decreases in violent crime and antisocial behaviour, improvements in child health and wellbeing, ongoing and even strengthening community support for the income management measures. The independent evaluation of the card trial in Ceduna and East Kimberley regions also showed the effectiveness of the trial to reduce alcohol abuse and gambling, which also eats up income into many welfare-dependent communities. The overall conclusion of the research was that the card has had a considerably positive impact, including 41% of those surveyed reported drinking less frequently, 48% used drugs less frequently, and 48% of gamblers gambled less often. Given the positive outcomes that the cashless debit card has shown to have, I cannot see how anyone would not support the continuation of the trials and a broader rollout in other areas where drug and alcohol abuse and social dysfunction is rife. There is a strong support for the introduction of the cashless debit card from community leaders, local government and key community-based organisations. For example, the Far West Community Leaders Group recently released this statement. We are now into the third year of the implementation of the cashless debit card rollout in the Far West region of South Australia, which covers Oak Valley, Yalata, Scottsdesco, Coonimba and Ceduna. We acknowledge and recognise the work done by all our communities and other areas of Australia that have implemented the cashless debit card. It has not been an easy feat, but we have united together, influenced the design of the trial and made a real, lasting effect in numerous communities, all with unique experiences and individualised benefits. We recognise the government officials and ministers, both current and former, who have stayed true to their word in co-designing the trial with us, rather than for us. Our region remains in direct contact with ministers and departmental staff, and furthermore, we encourage the Prime Minister and other ministers to visit our communities and see firsthand the results of the policy. As I said, I went out to Kalgoorlie and I was on the Senate inquiry out there. After listening to the communities, leaders, the councillors, the mayors, community elders and different ones, basically the majority wanted the card. The only real issue was communication. But they felt there was a need for the card, and especially in Kalgoorlie. You know, what it comes down to is tough love. When I listen to the Greens in this chamber speaking on this issue, and they talk about someone's human rights being taken away from them, I think we need to look at the real issues. Why the government has introduced the cashless debit card is because communities, and there are certain communities, and let's be honest about it, don't back away from it, these communities are basically Aboriginal. That's what they are, because that's where a real problem is. Everyone skirts around the whole issue, and the big issue with it is with their alcohol and the drugs. And when I was in 1998, when I had a community meeting with the Aboriginal women who brought their children, and they told me we are being faced with sexual abuse, our kids are glue sniffing, and there was no assistance. Basically, everyone turns their back, doesn't want to really deal with the issue because you're called a racist. These are real problems and issues in these communities. Escalating crime. So the attitude is don't lock up Aboriginals because of the incarceration rate is getting too high. Why is it getting that high? The problem that I've been speaking to a lot of these Aboriginal communities is lack of work and employment. So then you look at the reason why that's happening. Is it because they are on alcohol and drugs? Because it makes them unemployable? That is another issue to look at. So then we have to deal with how are we really going to address the problem. Don't turn your back on it and think it's too hard. This is a start. The cashless debit card is a start, and it is working. So once it's been introduced, and I've spoken to the police, the reductionist crime has started. Families are buying decent food for the kids. That's another big problem. Health issues, diabetes, kidney dysfunction. This is all happening because of their diets. So isn't it best to actually, like I said, tough love? Means that you can't go out and use your money to buy drugs and buy alcohol and end up in a dysfunctional life and a dysfunctional family, because what happens is those kids coming through, they become used to that life because that's the parents. Break the cycle. Sexual abuse is another one. That kids as young as 2, what did we hear earlier this year? A 2-year-old being raped, and again, just recently, a 7-year-old boy. And no one wants to discuss this. Why is it happening? Again, because of dysfunctional communities. I'm not going to, I'm not having to go at the Aboriginal communities. I respect their culture. But it's not working. And we have to be honest with ourselves in this place to find the right answers. I don't think anyone here would have a go at any culture at all, but we have to be honest with ourselves and find the answers to try and prove it. Billions of dollars are thrown a year at it, but nothing seems to change. Families are asking for help. Let's look at the cashless debit card. The monies are put into an account. 80% has to be spent on the card, and it stipulates that you can't go and buy alcohol with it, you can't gamble with it. 20% is still cash. They can still spend that cash where they want to. And there's another thing with the Aboriginal communities, they understand the culture, is that if you have cash in your pocket and you've got a family member or a friend who comes to you and asks you for money, they rarely will say no to it unless they're very strong. They hand over that money. So there is also, could be intimidation that's happening in these communities. If you're going to allow these people to actually have cash in their pocket all the time, other family members are the ones who will take the money from them. But if they're restricted and they know they haven't got the cash, they can't hand it over, so they can provide for their own families what needs to be done. So when the Greens talk about, and their amendment today, I can't believe their amendment, it's everyone's rights. The Greens will complain and whinge and complain all the time about different things and people's rights, but I never hear the answers how they're going to deal with this. It's all right to sit back and whinge and complain about it, but unless you actually got the answers, how are you going to deal with this issue? Everyone wants their rights, but with rights comes responsibilities. And if you're actually going to pull back this card, where is the responsibilities of us as the managers of this country for the people on behalf of the people? Where is our duty of care to those young children coming through? to give them some opportunity because their parents aren't good parents and because of the drinking and the alcohol and the sexual abuse that's going on. We have a responsibility to ensure that the kids have at least half a chance to be looked after, educated and not sexually abused. So when the Greens have been moving their amendments today, and the amendment is to abandon it completely, or the other one is they want to take away the income management of the card, that you'll only be on the card if you have a serious offence of 3 years or more, that you'll be on the card.
No, that's not what that
Well,
is.
all right, correct.
You've got it wrong.
So, if you have a serious offence of 3 years or more and on income management, so drunk and disorderly is no reason for it at all. So, when you have people that are saying it is working in these communities, that families are now being able to provide and look after their children, communities are better for it, less violence, less drinking, less alcohol, less drugs. Why on earth would you want to say no to it? You know, if this is all about politics in this place, then I'd say get over it. Because it shouldn't be about politics. You have to look at these bills on what is the best interest for the country and for the people and start working together. If you're not happy with the bill, then come up with some answers, not just should be abandoned and talking about people's rights. As I said before, with rights, with responsibilities and rights go hand in hand. So I do support this bill. It is working. And I'll say to anyone out there who may be listening to this, if you don't like it, the cashless debit card and having a responsibility to the taxpayer that is giving you this money so that you can live and you can put a roof over your head and you can survive, then my suggestion is get a job.